Most driven software engineers are constantly looking for ways to improve themselves. They either learn a new programming skill, trying a new tool, trying a new full stack, or anything that might help them level up as software developers. And mastering skill is one of the things that many software developers try to focus on. There are so many things that you can do to be a better software developer. In this video, I'm going to share with you 8 lessons about software engineering that I learned in my 8 years of professionally developing software. And the hope here is that you will take one or two of these lessons and apply it into your scenario. And that way you'll grow further and faster as a software developer. The day you stop learning is the day you begin decaying. Software engineering, tech industry changes every moment. There are so many things that are happening, new things are coming up, new technologies, new way of solving things, new stacks, new programming languages, new database management, and so much more. And it's really, really challenging to keep up with everything. And even if you were able to keep up with everything, I definitely don't recommend that. That's kind of counterproductive. Don't take that to the extreme. And what I'm trying to say here is that it's okay and it's actually recommended to learn new things, to learn a new language, a new stack once in a while, to level up or to try something, to experiment with something. And you can try one thing or another. Like for instance, right now I'm learning Python and immediately I started to enjoy it. A lot of stuff that are built in. I started to like a lot of small things that it allows you to do in the language itself. But I cannot lie and not tell you that it drives me nuts. The white space sensitivity, the indentation is not my best friend. It just drives me insane. So you will never know what you like about one language versus the other until you try and until you see what is out there. And when you do, you will know what to do. Also, a benefit of that is that you will know how to solve specific problems in specific language, and it gives you a level of creativity. You discover new things, so it's definitely beneficial. Given a choice to write code that is easier versus code that is easier to read, I'll definitely recommend to go with the route of choosing the code that is easier to read. So the advice here is that don't sacrifice readability. A fact is that we as software developers spend more time reading code versus writing it. As a software developer, you write your code, but also you read it multiple times. You read it when you need to test it, you read it when you want to enhance it, when you're trying to find a bug. There are so many cases where you're actually reading the code versus writing it. As well, you read somebody else's code. So the advice here is that you write the code in such a way that is easier to read for anybody else in the future who might be in your code. And also be a friend to your future self. Let's say that you will come back in 6 months or 9 months or whoever amount of time you come back to your code, it will be so much easier. You will be so much friendlier to yourself, future self, if you write the code in the most readable way. There is this statistic. The ratio between a developer coding and writing code is 1 to 10. So you spend 10 times less time actually writing code versus reading it. So in the long run, you will save a lot of time by spending a little bit of extra time right now to write the code in the most readable way. That way, you don't have to write the most complex and most, elegant, sexy code or something like that. You have to write a code that is simple to understand, easy to maintain, easy to extend, and it's something that works. There is no reason to fancy up your code. There is a need for making the code readable and maintainable and understandable for everybody. A goal without a plan is just a wish. So don't rush into your code without thinking. Invest in understanding what you're trying to do. It might be exciting to dive exactly into writing the code immediately right now, solving it, but in the long run, you might be getting lost in understanding and seeing the big picture. So you have to spend time to plan everything and organize yourself. You have to ask questions: what might be the roadblocks? What am I trying to solve? And you have to ask these questions: why? 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 And again, why? These are all great questions to ask yourself before you start coding. And these are also questions that will make you understand that there's so much more that is coming into play, so much more things that are required in order before you start to code. You need to understand the logic. You need to understand why, what are the limitations, what are the edge cases, what terminology or what language will be best, what tools do you have to use to make this the most efficient. So don't jump into coding straight away. Spend time understanding and getting to the realization what you are trying to do, why you are doing it, and what will be the benefits, what will be the risks. You have to invest this time to make sure that your project or the thing you're working on has high chances of succeeding. Because if you start to code and you introduce a lot of issues, you start to code what is not needed, it will cost you more. The top characteristics of success in tech-related field are soft skills. And you have to understand the importance of soft skills. As a software engineer, you bring value, and your value is not only writing code. I think I mentioned this thousands of times, and I'll continue saying your value or your job as a software developer is not only writing code. You have to understand the business knowledge. You have to solve the problem in most creative way. You have to solve it in such a way that is easier to maintain, it's easier to extend, it's easier to work in a team. Soft skills go beyond technical skills. You have to be able to communicate with all stakeholders, internal and externals. You have to talk with customers and understand what they're trying to solve, what is their pain points, what will gain them from solving the problem. There's so much more that is at stake as a software developer, and it's not only to be good at technical stuff. Software engineering is not something that you become good overnight and requires a lot of grit, which I would say it's also soft skills. You have to be able to know how to pass those times when it's frustrating, when you are not seeing the solution, or the times when you want things to happen so much faster, but everything it goes so slow, or you want to learn a new language, but you don't get it. There are so many moments that you're frustrated and you want everything to happen immediately as a software developer. And yeah, the thing is that you have to have soft skills and to be able to apply them and evolve as a software developer. Be consistent to evolve every single moment that you get into the field, and to apply the knowledge that you have, and also have the curiosity to try something new, the desire to experiment, the joy of sharing with others, teaching others, mentoring, inviting people to collaborate. Soft skills are so much more that brings into your career, so you have definitely to include it in your career. If you do that, if you are great at technical stuff and you add the soft skills, oh my god, I promise you, you will be a badass in software engineering industry. Every problem has a solution. You just have to be creative enough to find it. Become expert or become familiar with debugging. if you are a software developer and you have been doing this for a while now, you know that any code can be destructive. Any code can, even if you think it works as it should, even if that snippet, let's say 5 lines of code, works as you expected, that can easily break something somewhere else. So it's really important to be able to debug the code, able to understand it. And debugging can be so time consuming and energy consuming. So knowing how to debug, where to look, what to look for, it's such an amazing skill, because you can start debugging a code that is, let's say, 2 million lines of code, and you're very, very high in the stack. And if you step into every single function or method, it will take you so much time. But if you are able to, let's say, just look from this level to the next level, you kind of can narrow it down where something might be wrong. This is kind of just a random tip, but there's so much more. This is if you just take a moment and think outside the box, think about the logic, where something might be wrong, where something might go off, trying to remember what might be throwing things off, knowing where to put the breakpoint, using if you're using Visual Studio, using the tools that are there. Maybe you want to add a condition when this value change, break this here. If you have thousands and thousands upon thousands of iterations to go through, don't go through every iteration, do F5, F5, F5 or something like that. Put a breakpoint with the condition and break when something happens. There are so many things about debugging that I strongly recommend you investing the time in becoming better at debugging, and I promise you that will help you become a greater software engineer. For a large amount of software engineers, the most chunk of their time is spent chasing bugs, and a really small percentage of time is spent to actually fixing. It's no joke that the majority of time is actually spent chasing the bug, finding the bug, and really maybe 1, 3 or 4%, 5% actually solving it. Once you have found the problem, you kind of can come up with a solution. So debugging is really crucial to understand and be able to do. Take chances, make mistakes, that's how you grow. So what I'm trying to say is that mistakes are a major part of becoming a great software engineer. We all do mistakes from time to time. Some mistakes are higher risk, some mistakes are lower risk. But the point is that we all do mistakes. Even the most seasoned software engineers do mistakes time after time. We are all starting somewhere, we are all making mistakes, and the key here is to understand what happened and learn from the mistake that was done. And the sooner you make the mistakes and the sooner you learn from it, the better will be. That kind of fail fast, fail soon, fail often. I think it's kind of like that. And making mistakes is part of being human. We make mistakes on daily basis as human beings, and at the end of the day, we are software developers also, and we make mistakes. It's part of our nature, and it's also important to understand and welcome that, because as a result, we learn from what we've done. And it's something that should not bother you too much, because it happens to all of us and the best of us as well, and it happens on a daily basis. Software engineering is hard by itself, and as a result, mistakes happen. So you have to be open to that and open to learning. But the one caveat there is just you have to try your best to not do the same mistake over and over again, because if you do, that means you're not learning from them. So make mistakes and learn from them. Disconnect to connect. As a software developer, we spend hours upon hours at our desks, at our computers. And if it happens that we are in the flow, in the zone, there might be hours at stretch without us getting up, getting stretch our legs or go and get a cup of water or something like that. And sitting for such a long period of time, it's counterproductive. And a lot of time that might lead to situations where we get frustrated or we cannot solve something because we are tired, our brain doesn't work as it should. And I cannot tell how many times I found myself in that situation. So you have to take a break, either go for a walk or either go and get a cup of water or something. Literally, I find myself that if I cannot solve something and I spend hours upon hours looking at the screen and like, why is this not working? Why is that happening? I tried this, I tried that, I tried classes, I tried interfaces, I tried to use events, I tried to use delegates, and so whatever the problem I'm trying to solve, and nothing works. And it's just, if I just take a pause, a step back, and just try to think about it, it's just like, it seems that I try to take all the tools out of the tool belt and try to fix whatever, right? And to be honest, I became a runner because of software engineering. I will become so frustrated for things that I cannot solve, I cannot do, I don't get it. I tried so many things and nothing works. So as a result, I started to run, and I'm kidding you not, it's more than dozens of times where I'll be frustrated working for many hours at the screen, and the screen will be staring at me and I will be staring at my screen like, what's going on there? And nothing works, right? And I'll get up, go for a run, and voila, ding, an idea comes to my mind, like, oh, I should try this. And I'm not kidding, or I'm not kind of joking or making this something that is not. Literally, I'll go back after I'm done running, after I take my shower and so on, I'll sit down, I'll try that, and it will work. I'm not kind of lying here or anything like that. I'm telling the truth. I cannot count how many times that actually helped me. So if running is not your thing, make sure that you take a break and go get a fresh breath of air. Make sure to get a cup of water, or just stop, unplug, and try to just take a step back and try what is the goal, what you're trying to do. Take a step out that maze, that labyrinth, and try to think about it. And I promise you that if you give that a chance, a small break for the brain, maybe think about something else, obviously depending on the situation you are in, but in most cases, the majority of time, that helped me tremendously. So the advice is that take a moment, step back, unplug, think about something else, do something, and refresh your mind, refresh your focus, and the things will start to flow again. And in a matter of no time, you might find the solution you're looking for. Be strong enough to stand alone, smart enough to know when to need help, and be brave enough to ask for it. Help comes to those who ask for it. There are many times that we find ourselves in situations where we tried everything, nothing helped. It comes to the previous probably point, is that maybe you worked on something for hours, nothing seems to be helping. You are maybe taking a break, going for a walk, and the idea is not coming up to your mind or anything like that. You have to know that it's okay to go and ask for help. It's actually better to go for to ask for help than just to stare for hours and hours upon the screen and not doing anything. You're actually wasting time. Before you go and ask for help, just make sure that you try to understand the problem. You try to understand what's going on, why it's not working. Try to think of what might be going on, and then reach out for help. And most of the time, maybe the developers will be able to sit down and help you. Kind of, that's not the goal, but the goal is just to get a push in the right direction. And as soon as you have a push in the right direction, you kind of got outside of that bottleneck or that roadblock, and you start again to solve the problem, go further. And that way, that's how things are solved, one thing at a time, one small things at a time. So make sure that you're reaching out for help, and don't expect somebody to solve your problem. Reach out for an advice or the push in the right direction. Those are the skills and the lessons that I wanted to share with you. Those are kind of my top 8 things that I learned as a software developer from developing professionally for the last 8 years. I would also add kind of an Uber tip at the end here, and that will be learn to say no. There is so many things that we are interested in doing, and it's really hard to say no. It's so much easier to say yes, especially if you're a people pleaser or you want to try so many things. Saying yes, it's so much easier than saying no. But when you say yes to one thing, you might be saying no to something that is more important to you, or more beneficial for your career, or more beneficial for something that it will lead you to more opportunities that are a better fit for your skill set or for your career journey. So definitely take practice and understand and try to realize what you want to do and what you don't want to do, and know when to say no, when to say no. Well, thank you for watching until the end. That means a lot to me. If you found a few useful tips here, I hope you apply them into your situation, and I will be curious to find out which ones you found the most useful. Please take a moment to drop them in the comment below. And if you find this useful, feel free to share it with your colleagues or aspiring software engineers. That will help them go further in their journey. And thank you very much. I see you in the next video. Oh, by the way, like, comment, share, subscribe, everything that I just said. And a next video, I promise to be a good one.